I think it's simple when you see it. I think for a lot of people, it's hard to see that relationship you just described the first time. But I think once you get there and once you start letting go of the wheel a little bit, and you do start trusting yourself and trusting other people, then it becomes very intuitive. You know what Jonathan just
Well,
articulated, which is you give them a goal, and then you let them have the space to try to achieve it, and you hold them accountable.
but what's complex about it is you not knowing the goal. Like, so a lot of times
Yeah,
you yourself are not looking at the objective, or it's also a matter of fear, because a lot of times if you commit to an objective, then it's clear, if it was the wrong objective, or if if there was a better opportunity to be pursuing, or whatever it is, then you're accountable for that. Like, you're the one who's setting the objectives. So it's much easier to kind of just be amorphous, in terms of what the objectives are, and then micromanage everyone's tasks, or focus on the irrelevant as opposed to the, what's important. I know, did
yeah,
that
and
trigger something, or?
it did. And we just got a question kind of on the. I want to see what this question coming in on apps that kind of record workers' keystrokes, their motion, like what they're doing, and do we have a feeling or an opinion on that? In mine, yeah, to be aligned with the conversation, I have a negative opinion of those tools. I think that they are what we're talking about. They breed mistrust, and they basically give a clear signal that we don't trust our employees to be achieving their goals. And also, just from a process standpoint, who is reviewing all of that? We're creating tremendous amounts of data, tracing people's keystrokes, watching their activity, making them log in and log out. That data, I can tell you 99% of the time, is never looked at, never reviewed. It's never deployed in any meaningful way to create any value for any company that I've ever seen deploy these tools. So
Also, how you measure somebody, that's how they're going to be, that's what they're going to be incentivized to do. So if you're recording their activity, then they're going to just be making sure they're on their laptop all the time, or whatever they need to do to make sure that they pass whatever test these keystrokes and whatever is aimed to do, as opposed to what they're supposed to be accomplishing.
it's measuring and putting focus on the wrong parts of the process, which is, again, not the outputs, not the goals. And, and again, it's on the how, not the what, as Jonathan would say. And it doesn't, how does that help an organization? If they do the keystrokes, or they're online or whatever, and they're not hitting their goals, then what was the point of measuring them? I just think it's irrelevant data.
And let's say you have somebody who, to solve a problem, is spending a majority of an hour thinking about it, pondering, or maybe they don't even use their computer for it. They like using a whiteboard, or they like
Jonathan,
using.
We don't pay people to think.
So, and then in the, with 5 minutes out of the hour, they have their flash of the insight, they understand it, and they're productive. Well, who are we going to reward? Well, if you're measuring their interaction with their system, you're saying that it's not very valuable to just kind of be idle, the successful companies also give people a certain amount of space. We've talked about this, the idea of giving yourself space. Companies give their employees space too. And sometimes that space is just to think, to read, to learn, to whatever it is, but not necessarily to just be cranking out whatever it is that you think they're going to be more efficient doing, if that's all they do 100% of their time.
And it ties, again, a topic we talk about a lot, the space concept. It ties it into our, like I said earlier, all the good things are typically bundled together. Trusting employees to meet their goals, how is they're best suited to do so, gives them the space to do that and be creative and be innovative. Not tracking their keystrokes, not overexerting control over them, gives them the space to be more productive, gives them the space to create their own process and create kind of, innovation for the company. All the things that we talk about are related, and, transparency in there too. We talked about how that was related. So I guess for me, and kind of summarizing the conversation today about trust, the biggest thing I'd like to say is make sure that you don't make people earn it. Like, we're staying present with people. Innocent until proven guilty is still, it works for the law. I think it should work for giving trust to people, just as a flyby rule. And make sure that you kind of understand, if you're struggling with this, how much you're trying to control things and your need for control. I think what surfaced for me in this conversation, and what I'd like to reiterate as we come out of it, is if you're putting it that the control is the opposite of trust, and look at that in your personal life too. And I think that's a good way to practice. If you feel the need to control anything, look at the need to let go of the control a little bit as building trust and whatever the focus is. And I think that's an interesting thing to look at.
And a way you can measure that is, where are you spending a majority of your time, on the how or on the why? If you're a leader, you should be looking at the how, at the why, and seeing the output, but you're not looking at the how all day long. And I'll add one last thought. In an era where everybody's so worried about retention of employees and why is everybody going different places, if you're micromanaging them, that means inherently, and there's no trust, why should they have any allegiance or feel any part meaningfully of your organization? People who feel invested in and who feel valued tend to want to stick around. People who don't tend not to. So if you're micromanaging or not trusting and have a not trusting environment, don't be surprised if nobody trusts you back and it goes away. And then you're going to align on someone who you think is really good, but they're going to feel the same as everybody else.